Chapter 3. Which story shall we tell our kids? In her basement, aka her haven, a place to get lost in the soothing flow of programming and escape the outside world's troubles, Ryan was lost in her element. Earbuds played the Fugees to keep her focused, and an energy drink sat dangerously close to her keyboard. On her 4 monitor screens, she was remotely hacking into a corporate server. Just some light illegal work to blow off steam before her big mission. Old habits die hard. Her phone buzzed, pulling her attention away. It was a text from her ex. Drinks tonight? For old time's sake, I'm in town for a few days. Flashback. The door exploded inward, pieces of wood flying everywhere. Ryan darted upright, ripped from sleep. Feds and police officers poured into the apartment, a swarm of dark suits and barked orders. Her mind was on overdrive, scrambling to make sense of the commotion that had just shattered her world. FBI, don't move, an officer shouted, his weapon drawn. Angelique, always quick on her feet, made a run for the window. With a kick, she shattered the glass and leaped out onto the fire escape, leaving Ryan alone to face the consequences of their activities. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists, and she watched helplessly as the agents began seizing her computers and equipment. In their haste, one of the officers knocked over a glass plant pot, a cherished gift from her deceased foster mother, Cora. The sound of shattering glass broke her heart while she watched the parts scatter across the floor. Angelique disappeared into the night, the betrayal cutting more than the cold metal against her skin. End flashback. She angrily swiped the message away into the trash. The memory of her arrest, of having her freedom stripped away while she was abandoned even years later, was still so raw. Taking a deep breath, Ryan pushed the painful recollection aside and refocused on the task at hand. As lines of encrypted code streamed by, she thought about the target dossier sitting on her nightstand upstairs. With this new assignment, her life was on the line. She was no stranger to risky hacking jobs, but outright murder? Maybe taking this agency gig was a mistake. Sure, she had been seeking redemption and a fresh start in their elite program, but at what cost? But could she really walk away and say, you know what, I changed my mind after everything they had done for her? They had given her a chance when no one else would, when she was dreading getting jumped in the showers every morning. Shaking her head, she decided to take a break. Maybe some target practice would help clear her thoughts. She reached for her virtual reality gear, a state-of-the-art system that the agency had provided for training purposes. She slipped on the headset and grabbed the controllers, watching as the world around her dissolved, replaced by a hyper-realistic shooting range. A virtual arsenal appeared before her, offering a wide selection of firearms to choose from. Aight, what we've got here: Glock 19, Beretta M9, Sig Sauer P226. Man, these are some serious heat. She considered her choices, talking out loud. What's the difference between a Glock and a Sig Sauer anyway? Is it like a Mac versus PC thing? Shrugging, she settled on a black handgun that caught her eye. Ooh, a Heckler & Koch VP9. Sounds like some fancy law firm. And it's cute, too. Let's see what this baby can do. She took aim at the first target, and with a firm hand, she squeezed the trigger, watching with satisfaction as the bullet hit its mark. Take that, you virtual little shit. Feeling encouraged, she decided to try a more advanced level. Ryan selected a scenario that involved multiple moving targets, each one more challenging than the last. As she spun around to take out an enemy behind her, she forgot about the very real, very long desk in her basement. She crashed into the edge of it, sending her keyboard and empty drink cans flying. Yelling in pain, the virtual world blinked out of existence as the headset fell off her face. Ow, ow, ow. Fuck, she groaned, rubbing her bruised hip. The heavy bag shook under Sophie's unrelenting strike, each powerful kick and punch fueled by the frustrations boiling beneath her skin. Sweat glistened on lean arms, and damp spots began to form on her sports bra. At this late hour, the gym in her apartment building was empty, save for her and the Bluetooth headphones in her ear, which were bumping Jay-Z. The beats of her music were in sync with the thud of her strikes and her breathy exhale. It was a routine scene, Sophie working out her stress in solitude. Her cell phone, sitting on the bench, taunted her. A few days had passed since Jordan told her about their mother's struggle with her car, which needed a new battery. Sophie immediately sent funds, knowing that Diane would receive a notification from the bank. Yet here she was, met with silence once more. Breathing hard, she snatched her phone and tapped on her mother's contact number. It rang once or twice, then said, "You've reached Diane Moore. Leave a message and God bless." "Hey Mom, it's me." The words felt odd. "I just wanted to let you know I transferred some money into your account. I wasn't sure if you were notified. Hopefully that helps out." Hanging up, she swept a hand through her soaked hair. Money had been tight since she quit that high-paying security gig with the Crows, but now she was scrambling to keep hers and her mother's heads above water. Flashback. Sophie, Diane, and her sister Jordan gathered around the dining table at their mother's place. Jordan had pleaded for a peaceful family meal during her rare visit from National City, and Sophie had reluctantly agreed despite the friction between her and Diane. Pushing food around on her plate, Sophie took a deep breath. "I've got some news to share. I left my job at the Crows." "Hell yes, Soph. I never could stand that racist-ass place anyway." Jordan jumped up and hugged her big sister, feeling proud that she finally made a move after talking about it for a while. But Diane stayed quiet, her fork stuck in midair. Sophie looked at her mother's expression, trying to read her thoughts. "Mom, aren't you thrilled for her?" Jordan asked, her grin turning into a frown. "The Crows were a respected organization, Sophie. And quite frankly, they gave you a solid paycheck." "I couldn't be part of their methods anymore, Mom. It conflicted with my values." "Values? What values do you have, Sophia? And who's going to pitch in with the mortgage payments now? Not your sister, shacking up with 2 roommates, doing Lord knows what in another town." Jordan's mouth fell open, but before she could get a word in, Sophie cut her off. "Ah, so that's what really matters, isn't it? You're worried about the cash I send, not my principles or happiness." She shoved back from the table. "No need to worry, Mom. I'll manage to keep sending you monthly checks to keep the lights on, even though I barely feel welcome here." In flashback. Thinking about her own bank account, Sophie knew Blackback could be her ticket to financial freedom. Hell. Maybe she could send her mother a fat check and be done with her for good. Feeling worn out, she gathered her stuff and headed back upstairs for a much-needed shower. Later, hunched over a stack of the agency's assessments, it felt like her head was going to split open. Quantum computing? What the actual fuck? She couldn't wrap her head around even the basic concepts. Why did she need to learn this stuff anyway? It wasn't as if she'd be breaking into some super advanced AI on her missions, right? Leaning back, she rubbed her eyes shard. The words on the page seemed to blend together. She was a soldier, not a scientist or a mathematician, or whatever specialty you needed for these algorithms. Needing a break, she moved over to her fish tank and gave the fish a friendly tap on the glass. "Hey there, big guy. I could really use your calming presence right about now." As if on cue, the fish drifted languidly over, his fins waving. Sophie chuckled and sprinkled some fish food into the water. "At least one of us doesn't have to worry about understanding math, huh?" The fish seemed unbothered, continuing his laps around the tank and eating his fresh food. Feeling ignored by her own fish, Sophie turned back to the intimidating stack of materials on the table. Grabbing a fresh notebook, She started writing down questions, trying to grasp the equations, or whatever it was that was nonsensical. If this was what it took to secure her future, to prove to her mother and everyone else that she could make it on her own terms, then bring it on. Downtown Gotham, Bevy nightclub. The club's 808 bass lines bounced through Ryan's bones as she swam through the sea of bodies on the dance floor, her senses on high alert. Her mind's eye was locked on her target. Those cheekbones, perfect luscious lips, and those amber eyes that looked like maple syrup pouring over the fluffiest of pancakes. Okay, she didn't have dinner, and she was clearly hungry in more ways than one. Can you blame her? Her target, from the photos in the file, looked deliciously fine as hell. According to the intel in her report, the mysterious woman frequented this club every Saturday for ladies' night. Ryan snickered. Of course, she's a ladies' night kind of chick. While standing between the crowd peeping at the scene, a hand reached out, trying to grab hers. Instinctively, Ryan snatched her hand back, her eyes narrowing at the overly thirsty patron. The woman threw her hands up in a gesture of innocence, shouting over the music, "Hey, sexy, I just want to dance." Nah, I'm good. On any other night, Ryan might have taken the opportunity to let loose and throw it back, but not tonight. Tonight, she was on a mission, and nothing, not even the temptation of grinding on a stranger, could distract her from her target. Sophie sipped on her soda water in the VIP booth, her mind lasered in on the task at hand. It had been ages since she had set foot in a place like this. Back when she was with one of her exes, they used to hit up the hottest spots in town every weekend, dancing until dawn and sipping on overpriced cocktails. But since the breakup, Sophie had pretty much kept to herself. She couldn't justify blowing her hard-earned cash on watered-down drinks and ear-splitting music, not when she had a bottle of Jim Beam and Spotify waiting for her at home. Besides, the club scene just wasn't the same without someone to share it with. She had grown used to the loneliness, the quiet nights in with nothing but her thoughts and a glass of whiskey for company. Yet tonight, she had a task to complete, and that meant stepping out of her comfort zone and into the world of the nightclub. She just hoped that the mystery woman would show up soon so she could get this over with and retreat back to the safety of her apartment. She dug into her clutch, fishing out her phone, and pulled up the image of her target once more. The woman staring back at her was a real beauty. Chocolate skin, wavy brown hair, and big, dark doe eyes that probably did its fair share of getting her out of any jam. It was a head-scratcher. Why the agency wanted her dead, but Sophie knew better than to ask questions. That wasn't her business. Her job was simple: follow orders, no matter how little sense they made. She zoomed in on the picture, scanning the woman's body and taking in the various tattoos scattered across her skin. She zeroed in on a distinct tattoo on the back of the neck, burning the elaborate design into her memory. In this game, any detail could be the difference between a win and a loss. She put her phone back up and rose from her seat, making her way towards the bathroom. As she pushed open the door, a gaggle of women crowded around the sinks were touching up their makeup and chatting animatedly. Her eyes landed on a woman hunched over the sink, head down as she washed her hands. Sophie traveled up the stranger's body, noting the strong, silky calves underneath a red strappy dress, the curve of her hips, the arch of her back. And then she saw it. The tattoo. The same artwork she had been studying on her phone. Gotcha, ass. Not wanting to get caught staring, she quickly ducked into an open stall, leaving the door slightly ajar. She pulled out her phone again, glancing between the screen and the woman at the sink, comparing the tattoos. They were a perfect match. While the woman finished washing her hands and reached for a paper towel, Sophie wondered, should she confront her now? Should she follow her back out into the club? She barely registered that her original reason for the bathroom visit had been forgotten. She decided to wait, counting to 10 after the stranger left, before making her own exit. Sophie appeared from the stall and headed for the door, plotting out ways to approach the woman. She was about to leave, and a voice called out, "Damn, you not gonna wash your hands?" She stopped mid-step and felt her face heat up. Yeah, yuck. Quickly backtracking to the sink, she turned on the faucet and began scrubbing her hands. For some reason, the music seemed to have gotten louder by the time she made it back out on the main floor. Her eyes surveyed the room, and there the woman was, dancing by herself, lost in the rhythm. What Sophie didn't know was that the woman had seen her too, catching a glimpse in the bathroom mirror. Drawn by an invisible force, she began to move towards her. The woman turned, and their eyes locked in a strong stare. Their bodies naturally moved in sync, as if they had been dancing together for years, when the sexy song De Novo came on. Up close, she was even more stunning with her hair makeup, perfectly done hair, and her eyes blazing with a fire that made Sophie's breath catch in her throat and goosebumps race up her arms. She leaned in, her lips barely grazing the shell of the other's ear. "You're a hard woman to find," she whispered, her voice merely audible over the music. "Maybe I didn't want to be found," the woman said with a teasing smile as she snaked her arms around Sophie's neck, erasing the distance between them. Sophie's hands found her waist, fingers splaying over the curves and brown skin. The rhythmic swing of her hips and the brush of her thighs, all of it a heady mix of attraction and danger, made her head spin, clouding her judgment with every beat of the sensual bachata song. They moved as one, spinning and twirling, their bodies molding together like two halves of a whole. The sexy woman rolled her ass against Sophie's, trailing her fingers down her arms. Sophie responded in kind, her hands roaming, mapping the outline of her back, dipping dangerously low. She spun her out, only to tug her back in, their faces just inches apart. Ryan's breath ghosted over her lips, a temptation begging to be tasted. But the game wasn't over yet. As the song changed to something more up-tempo, Sophie saw her chance. In a flash, she had a knife pressed against the other's stomach. The woman's eyes widened in surprise, but only for a moment. She smirked and reached in from the back of her dress, pulling out a small knife of her own and aiming it squarely at Sophie's chest, right above her heart. They stood there, locked in a dangerous embrace, their weapons ready to cut. Sophie knew she should push the knife deeper, end this now, but something held her back. Her opponent, too, hesitated. Her grip on the knife wavered. It finally clicked, and the whole situation made mad sense. They were two predators who had unwittingly become each other's prey. "Well, this is my favorite position," the woman said. "Is it? You're the type who likes it rough, huh?" Sophie trailed the tip of her knife along the other's jawline. "Baby, you have no idea how rough I like it. I'm the type who likes it any way I can get it." Sophie rolled her eyes, trying to ignore the way her heart skipped a beat at the woman's words. "Cute? But I'm not here to play games." But the woman simply grinned, unfazed by the threat. "Promises, promises. You have no idea what I'm capable of." When she was about to break perfect skin, a drunken dancer stumbled into them, breaking the spell. They sprang apart, their weapons still ready, but the moment had passed. They circled each other, their knives hidden from the oblivious crowd, reassessing the situation. The game had changed, and they both knew it. The crowd swelled, and more people came between them. They could not spot each other anymore. The dancing, sweaty bodies pushed and pulled the two women further apart. Sophie craned her neck, trying to find the woman, but the strobe lights made it impossible. She was frustrated, knowing that her target had slipped away from her fingertips. Literally. She pushed her way through the pack, determined to catch a glimpse of the red dress. She thought she had spotted her target, but the woman appeared from the crowd with a bright blue drink and hurled it at her. The glass shattered on the ground after hitting her chest, drenching her in sticky liquor. Sophie heaved in shock, and the sexy childish woman used the distraction to make her escape. "Oh, come on," Sophie threw her hands up. "I didn't sign up for this game of hide-and-seek bullshit." I'm a killer, not a kindergarten teacher. So she stood there dripping and fuming as she watched the red dress disappear through the exit door in a hurry. She wiped the liquor from her face and collected herself. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Ryan sprinted through the city streets, her stilettos getting caught in the cracks in the ground. She was more of a Nike girl, but for some reason those weren't allowed in the club, and women had to dress like they were competing on Flavor of Love. But that's a topic for a different day. Right now, she was trying to figure out just how her attractive target had been targeting her all along. Talk about a plot twist. Ryan should have known this job wouldn't be as straightforward as it seemed. She looked around at her surroundings, knowing that she had a few minutes before her pursuer caught up to her. Thinking fast, she whipped out her phone and put her hacking chops to the test. In 30 seconds, she'd pinpointed a nearby parking garage and set her sights on an all-black Porsche. With a few quick taps, she hotwired the beast and sped off into the night. While tearing through the city streets, a familiar hairstyle caught her eye in the rear view. It was G.I. Vixen who had been occupying her thoughts. Ryan's expression turned devilish, picking up on the unvoiced dare. She floored the gas and pushed the car to the limits. Game on. The two women wove through traffic like a high-speed chase, threading between cars and trucks. Ryan swerved around a slow-moving UPS truck, barely avoiding a collision, while the woman easily matched the speed. Red lights became suggestions only as they ran through the intersection after intersection, leaving the streets with honking horns and screeching tires. She had to hand it to the other woman. She was good. Damn good. But Ryan had been playing Mario Kart since she was old enough to say Luigi, and she wasn't about to let some Princess Daisy wannabe outdo her. Ryan yanked the handbrake, sending her car into a drift around a sharp corner, and she almost missed it when the other woman's ride suddenly careened into another car. The impact sent the vehicle spinning, and she watched in horror as it slammed into a lamppost. She stopped her car about 50 feet away and dashed to the wrecked car. This was her moment. She could end all of this now. Peering through the cracked window, Ryan saw the woman's limp form slumped over the steering wheel. A dribble of blood ran down her forehead, messing up the perfect makeup, and she hesitated for a moment. With a determined grunt, she raised back and punched the window with all her might. Ow, fuck! She shook her hand in pain as the glass shattered around her fist. God damn, that hurt like a bitch! Gritting her teeth, Ryan reached through the now broken window and grabbed the woman by her clothes. With a heave, she yanked the limp body through the jagged opening, not caring about the cuts and scrapes the glass inflicted on both of them. Jesus, lady, you're heavier than you look. She stood over the unconscious woman, unsure if her rival was alive or dead. Ryan delivered a petty kick to her side, a childish display of frustration. To her surprise, the blow caused a cough, confirming the woman's survival. She was relieved. For some unconscious reason, she wasn't ready for this stranger to die. But her moment of respite was short-lived. Disoriented but far from defeated, the woman summoned her remaining strength and tackled Ryan to the ground with a yell. They crashed and rolled around on the pavement, limbs tangling as each fought for dominance, each struggling to gain the upper hand. They hopped up and stared at each other, baiting the other to make a move first. Ryan tried to anticipate her opponent's next move and threw a right haymaker, but the other woman was too quick and too skilled. She dodged the blow with feline elegance before retaliating with a knee strike to Ryan's ribs. She felt a scorching agony spread through her side as the wind knocked out of her. Damn, you fight like a girl. The woman brushed off the taunt, keeping her cool and moving with the finesse of someone who trained hard for years. Ryan, on the other hand, scrapped like a Gotham street fighter, all wild punches and making it up as she went. She grabbed a fistful of the woman's hair, using the grip to yank her off balance. As her opponent staggered, Ryan struck with a knee to the stomach, putting her weight behind the blow. Then her elbow clipped the woman's jaw, drawing a thin line of blood from the corner of her pretty mouth. Seeing her own blood only made her more savage. A snarl tore from the woman's throat as she hurled herself at Ryan with renewed force. The impact felt like Ryan was being tackled by an all-pro linebacker. Her spine met the wet, cold steel of a parked car, the rear windshield exploding around them. She screamed as a deep gash split open along her forearm. The woman snatched her by the opening of her dress and hurled her across the street like a rag doll. Ryan tumbled through a dirty puddle before crashing into a fire hydrant. Defenseless, she lay at her opponent's mercy. The woman wasn't done yet. She pounced, straddling and pinning Ryan down. Her hand shot out, clamping around her throat in a devastating grip. Ryan clawed at the woman's arm, choking and sputtering as blackness started seeping in. But instead of basking in her foe's agony, the woman's face twitched with the faintest trace of reluctance. When the darkness began crawling into Ryan's consciousness, the woman eased the pressure slightly, enough for Ryan to suck in a ragged gasp of air. Her desperate cough was wet with flecks of blood. At that moment, Ryan saw an opening. She flipped them and then sent a knee toward the woman's stomach, trying to gain some leverage during the moment. Partially distracted by the scent of the woman's perfume, Ryan felt the need to comment on it, like the little brat she was. "Has anyone ever told you that you smell good?" The woman grunted at the blow, but didn't lose her grip around Ryan's neck. She leaned in closer. "Has anyone ever told you that you talk too much?" The woman reversed their positions, pushing her full body weight down again. Ryan struggled against the hold, but it was no use. The woman had her right where she wanted her. For a moment, they stared into each other's eyes, their chests heaving with exertion and fatigue. Blood on blood, body to body, skin to skin. Ryan felt a weird feeling come over her. It was adrenaline and something else. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. From the look in the woman's eyes, she seemed to be feeling it too. But just as quickly as the moment had come, it passed. The woman shook her head as if trying to physically remove the thoughts from her mind. The cold, hard look of purpose returned to her face. The woman fell around blindly among the wreckage surrounding them. Her fingers closed around a jagged scrap of glass. She raised the blade high, and Ryan's eyes went large as she realized her opponent's intent. Right as the woman was about to dig Ryan's eye out, a black SUV came to a screech right before them, and armed agents emerged from the vehicle. Ryan recognized Julia along with a random black bald man, and her heart sank. Did she fail the mission? Hell, she doesn't even know what the real mission was anymore. Before she could react, Ryan found herself in handcuffs and thrown into the back of the idle SUV, her questions and protests falling on deaf ears. She caught a glimpse of the woman being similarly restrained and thrown in next to her. The vehicle took off and sped through the rainy streets. Ryan and Sophie traded glances, their earlier attraction now overshadowed by bruised egos and bruised ribs. "What the hell is this?" Ryan yanked at her handcuffs. "Why am I stuck in here with her?" "Believe me, I'm not too thrilled about this arrangement either. I was hoping I'd seen the last of your annoying ass when I left you bleeding on the pavement." "Oh, please, you barely scratched me. I was just getting warmed up." "Is that why you were crying for mercy under my chokehold and why you're bleeding all over the leather seats?" "Nah, fam, I don't do that crying mess. And I definitely don't punk out, especially not for someone as basic as you." Sophie decided to ignore her and leaned forward, trying to catch Ocean's attention. "What's going on? Hello? Ocean? Did I fail the mission?" Her questions were met with silence, as Ocean and Julia ignored her, their focus solely on the road ahead. Frustrated, she sat back with a huff and glanced over at the other woman, who seemed equally confused by the situation. "You know, if you wanted to get close to me, you could have asked. Didn't think you'd be the kinky type, though." Ryan batted her eyelids for emphasis. "Seriously, you wouldn't know what to do with me, even if I came with a how-to guide." "Please, I could rock your world any day. I was just about to put on a master class before we got cock-blocked. Sophie bumped her shoulder into Ryan's. You mean before or after I was about to peel your left eye out? They continued on, trying to one-up each other, their voices getting louder with each exchange. But between all the bickering, Ryan's eyes dropped to Sophie's lips, staying there a moment too long before snapping back up. A blush spread up Sophie's neck, a dead giveaway that Ryan's look was doing things to her. Biting her lip, she willed her body to chill. The woman's presence was really nerve-wracking. In the front seat, the two seasoned agents shared a look of exasperation. Are newbies always like this? Ocean rubbed his temples. You have no idea, but it seems like these two have egos bigger than a parade of narcissists. Overhearing the comment, Ryan and Sophie paused their arguing to glare at the front seat. Hey, we can hear you, you know. Yeah, and for the record, my ego is perfectly sized, Sophie added. Perfectly sized, huh? Is that why you couldn't fit through the car window when I yanked your ass out? Ryan looked at Sophie and wiggled her own head for good measure. Your head show is big as hell. Girl, stop. Those twig arms couldn't snatch me from a soggy shoebox. I played along and let you rescue me, 'cause I pitied you. For real? That's gotta be one of the most ridiculous caps I've heard lately. As they continued to argue, their faces inches apart, so close that they could taste each other's words, Ocean reached for the radio and cranked up the volume. Think they'll ever stop? Those two? I doubt it, Julia chuckled. Black Bat Headquarters. Main entrance. The entrance was unassuming when they approached the massive, nondescript building. Just a simple glass door set into a brick cover, but as they drew closer, Sophie noticed the telltale sign of a camera above the door, its lens tracking their movement. During her training, she was in an entirely different wing. She didn't even sniff the main hub. The door swung open of its own accord. A bodiless female voice emitted from an unseen speaker. Agent Owens, Agent Pennyworth, please proceed with your guest to the biometric scanner. Inside, they were greeted by a large bat logo decorated on the wall. Backlit by a red light, Ryan and Sophie stepped up to the scanner, placing their hands on the glowing panel. There was a brief tingling sensation as the machine read their prints. Identity confirmed. Access granted. After cleaning up some of the grime and blood off of their bodies, they were then escorted into a conference room where Director Luke Fox awaited them. They took their seats, their eyes locked on the large screen on the wall. He wasted no time. With a click of a button, Sophie's image appeared on the screen. She was dressed in tactical gear, her expression serious and focused. Beside her picture, a detailed profile listed her impressive skills: expert marksmanship, advanced hand-to-hand combat, tactical planning, and leadership. Her military background was highlighted, including her top rankings in her class and her successful tours of duty. The screen also displayed her former association with the Crow's private security firm, noting her exemplary performance and her reason for leaving, a clash with the company's practices. A Crow? Figures. Ryan chuckled sarcastically. Ex-Crow, actually. Sophie shot her a spiteful look right back. Luke brought up another image. This time it was Rianne's turn. Her mugshot stared back at them, her expression defiant and unapologetic, and she was dressed in an orange jumpsuit. Accompanying the image was a lengthy rap sheet detailing her criminal history. The list was extensive, including multiple counts of hacking, data theft, and cybercrime. The profile also mentioned her time in prison, highlighting her ability to manipulate both people and systems. However, the screen also displayed Ryan's other talents. Her genius-level intellect was emphasized, with an IQ score that placed her in the top 0.1% of the population. Her skills in computer science, engineering, and mathematics were listed, painting a picture of a brilliant but misguided mind. Sophie's eyes widened as she read the screen, taking in the dichotomy of Ryan's background. On the one hand, she had a set of talents and competencies that were undeniably impressive. On the other, there was a criminal history that spoke of a troubled past. "You've been to prison?" "Are you really judging me right now?" Luke held up a hand, silencing them both. "You two have been working for the same organization tonight all along," he revealed. "And now you're going to be paired, not only as partners, but..." He slid a folder across the table for dramatic effect and continued, "as a legally married couple." Inside, Ryan and Sophie found their marriage license, boldly displaying Mrs. Ryan Wilder and Mrs. Sophie Wilder. Beside their license were 2 newly issued passports and 2 small pouches that contained their wedding bands. "Hold up, hold up, hold up." Ryan threw her hands up, objecting. "I don't do marriage, especially not with someone who clearly has a superiority complex." "Oh, give me a break. This is the same woman who's an adrenaline junkie with a rap sheet longer than my damn leg," Sophie argued back. "I see, because being married to a self-righteous crow with a stick up her ass is my dream come true, huh?" Oh, you mean the same dreams that landed you in prison?" Ryan's jaw dropped. "Bitch." Smacking the table forcefully, Luke put an abrupt end to their spat. "Enough. You two will do as you're told. End of discussion." "But why?" "We barely know each other. And what we do know, we don't like," Sophie disputed, though she couldn't 100% believe her own self with that statement. There were some things she liked about this Ryan character, but she wasn't saying that out loud. "Because this is important," Luke settled back into his seat, studying their faces, looking for more argument but seeing none. "This arrangement, this marriage, will keep you alive out there. You'll need to trust each other implicitly, to have each other's backs no matter what." Turning around to return to the screen, he clicked a button, and the monitor showed new images of various agents. A man and woman in tactical gear, another couple in formal wear at a party, and 2 men bent over a set of blueprints. These examples show how our arranged operative connections have been successful in the past. We match agents whose abilities and mindsets complement each other perfectly. They undergo hardcore training to build an uncompromising partnership. He clicked through a few more slides, showing mission reports and commendations. The results speak for themselves. These pairs have achieved objectives that would be impossible for solo operatives or even traditional partnerships. They've saved lives, toppled regimes, and prevented global catastrophes. Luke elaborated on the significance of their prospective collaboration. "This is a commitment in every sense of the word." He tapped the folder containing their freshly printed license. "From this moment on, you two are a unit. You'll live together, work together, and face every challenge as a team. The missions you'll be undertaking are not for the weak. They'll test you in ways you've never been tested before. The only way you'll survive, the only way you'll succeed, is by relying on each other. Your individual skills, your strengths, and weaknesses all complement each other. That's why our systems matched you together." Sophie, still lightheaded from the revelation, asked, "And tell me, why do I have to take her last name?" Ryan, on the other hand, couldn't hide her conceited grin. "Well, Wilder suits you, babe?" "I know it's a lot to take in." Luke ignored them and continued. "But believe me when I say that this partnership, this marriage, is your best shot at making it through what's to come. Embrace it, learn from each other, and grow together. Because out there, in the field, you'll only have each other to depend on." He paused, letting his words hit home. This is an unparalleled opportunity, a chance to be part of something bigger than yourselves. Black Bat isn't any other agency. We are the hand that shapes world events, and we protect the innocent from the darkest of threats. He tapped a button on his desk. which displayed a global map on the wall behind him. Dozens of beaming points of red light were across the continents, each representing an active Black Bat operation. At any given moment, we have over 100 missions in play across the globe, from counterterrorism to cyber warfare. Our agents are on the front lines of every major threat to global stability. This is the scale we operate on. This is the difference we make. And now you have the chance to be a part of that, to be a part of something greater than yourselves. But it comes with a price. Your old lives, your solo ways, they're gone. Luke stood up and gathered his things. Take some time to process this. But remember, your first official mission is waiting, and the clock is ticking. Sophie was struggling with the loss of her independence. She'd worked so hard to break free from the constraints of her past, from the crows, from her mother. The idea of being so reliant on another person, of having her success or failure tied to someone else's actions, was too much. And where the hell was her money? Hey, what about my payment? The money I was promised for tonight's job? She asked. Complete your first mission together, and I'll double it. The offer was enticing, but his next words carried a significance that couldn't be ignored. At Black Bat, there's no room for error. Every mission you undertake will be assessed as either a success or a failure. If you fail to complete a mission, whether by choice or by circumstance, or if you don't meet the assigned deadline, that's a fail. You have 3 chances to fail or leave the mission incomplete. 3 strikes and you're out. And what do you mean by out? Ryan asked. I think you both know the answer to that. The stakes were higher than either had ever imagined. Failure wasn't simply a possibility, it was a death sentence. So let me get this straight. Sophie looked around the room, still trying to make sense of what she just got herself into. We only get 3 strikes, total. There's no clean slate every year? Correct. Your record follows you throughout your entire career at Black Bat and throughout your marriage. About that, Ryan jumped in. How long are we talking here? A few months? Maybe a year or so? What's normal here? That, Mrs. and Mrs. Wilder, is a question only you can answer. The length of your commitment is up to you. Should you choose to dedicate your entire life to this, to one another, well, the ball is in your court. With that maddeningly vague response, Luke left the room, leaving them alone with their new reality. Sophie looked down at the folder in front of her, the gold band staring back at her. I can't believe this is happening. You and me both. I would have liked to have a say in who I married. Married at First Sight is not a favorite TV show of mine. Ryan wasn't feeling the whole put your life in someone else's hands thing. Having that little control over her future made her feel horrified. Looking up at Ryan, Sophie really took a hard look at the woman with whom her destiny was now intertwined. Who was she, really? Beyond the mugshot and the list of crimes? What could have driven someone with her intelligence and skills to a life of crime? What are her values? Her goals? What drives her? Can I trust her? A million more questions came to mind, but there was one burning one that Sophie had to know the answer to. So I have a question that I still don't understand. Back on the streets, why didn't you take me out when you had the chance? After the crash, you just kicked me and tried to run away. That was your moment right there. Ryan squirmed in her seat. I've never killed anyone before. What? If Ryan couldn't bring herself to exterminate, Sophie knew that their partnership, their marriage, was compromised from the start.
Underneath the polished, innovative exterior of Black Bat's base of operations, a network of power and hidden agendas exist. One of their most potent tools is their ability to erase the digital footprints of their agents. With advanced technology and a team of experts, they can manipulate data, alter surveillance footage, and create airtight cover stories. This digital invisibility cover allows their agents to blend seamlessly into society, maintaining the illusion of ordinary lives while carrying out extraordinary missions. It's a double-edged sword, however, as the very technology that protects them could also be used to control and monitor their every move, blurring the lines between personal freedom and agency loyalty. Black Bat did what local police, FBI, or CIA couldn't, or hell, sometimes wouldn't do, operating in ways that conventional agencies could only imagine. The actual essence of their missions extends well beyond the physical and strategic assessments they assign to their agents. Every task, every aim, may disguise hidden agendas and ulterior motives crafted to push the agents to their limits, compelling them to make unfeasible decisions and compromise their principles. The long halls whisper with the tales of former agents who have broken under the weight of pressures. Their stories are rarely told, yet they remain like ghosts amongst the living, agents who saw too much of the darkness and could not fight their way back to the light. Some say they were consumed by paranoia, forever glancing over their shoulders, captured by the very secrets they sought to protect. Others recount tales of burnouts, pushed beyond human limits until their psyches cracked, leaving nothing but hollow shells where once clever minds resided. The bitter truth is undeniable. The world of Black Bat operations is not meant for just anybody. Yet the intangible force of human connection might hold the key to survival.